Shadows over San Quentin. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that like button, smash subscribe, and drop a comment, because once you hear this story, you'll want to follow every twist, every lie, and every shocking revelation that unfolds inside San Quentin. Trust me, you won't want to miss a second of this. The fog rolled over the San Francisco Bay that night, thick and suffocating, turning the city's skyline into a blurred silhouette. The kind of fog that swallowed sounds and made shadows feel alive. In the small hours, a call came into the Marin County Police Department that would begin a chain of events no one would forget. The voice on the line was frantic, panicked, almost trembling. "You need to come now, someone's dead." Detective Marcus Hayward arrived first, the tires of his unmarked sedan hissing against wet asphalt. The scene was a modest duplex on a quiet cul-de-sac, the kind of street where neighbors know each other's business and doors stay unlocked. But tonight, the door to apartment 2B was ajar, a faint light flickering inside. Hayward's flashlight cut through the gloom, landing on the body sprawled across the living room floor. The victim, a young man in his late 20s, was pale, lifeless, his eyes wide as though they had witnessed something unspeakable. Beside him, a shattered lamp glinted like a broken star, and a dark stain spread across the Persian rug. No weapon. No immediate sign of forced entry. Just the stillness of death and the whisper of questions hanging in the fog. The first officer on the scene muttered under his breath, "Looks like a robbery, but something's off." Hayward crouched, scanning the room, noting every detail. The coffee table moved slightly, a window cracked open just enough for a hand to slip through, a half-finished letter on the kitchen counter addressed to someone named Elliot. Each fragment felt like a clue, and yet the puzzle refused to make sense. As forensic teams arrived, Hayward's attention was drawn to a peculiar mark near the fireplace, a faint smudge on the hearth, almost like a fingerprint, but too blurred, too hurriedly wiped to be definitive. He jotted it down. Every detail mattered, because in cases like this, a small oversight could mean locking the wrong man behind the walls of San Quentin. By the next morning, the investigation had exploded into a media frenzy. Headlines screamed, "Young man found dead in Marin, police hunt suspect." But beneath the sensationalism, seasoned detectives knew the real story would not be written in newspapers. It would be etched in interviews, in lab reports, and most dangerously, in the testimonies of those whose memories were notoriously unreliable. Enter the first witness, Clara Jensen, the neighbor from across the hall. She had seen a shadow fleeing the scene but couldn't describe more than a vague shape. "It all happened so fast," she said, voice cracking. I think it was someone I've never seen before. Or maybe, no, I can't be sure." Her hesitation was the kind detectives dread. She wanted to help, but uncertainty could be deadly in court. Detectives compiled statements, dusted for prints, and ran the crime scene through every conventional method. The evidence seemed to converge on a single person, Elliot Monroe, a local man with a criminal past, recently released on parole. His proximity to the victim and past record made him an easy target. But Hayward's instincts gnawed at him. Something about the neatness of the case, the way evidence seemed to fall into place, didn't feel right. Interviews with friends and coworkers painted Elliot as volatile but not murderous. He had debts, grudges, bad luck, but nothing to suggest the kind of cold-blooded planning this crime implied. Still, the pressure mounted. Public outrage demanded closure, the DA wanted a quick indictment, and Elliot, despite his protests of innocence, found himself cornered. As weeks passed, the investigation took a darker turn. New evidence surfaced, an anonymous tip about a second suspect, someone who had been seen leaving the neighborhood days before the murder. Security footage, grainy and nearly useless, hinted at a figure wearing a hood, moving against the fog, almost ghost-like. Hayward studied it for hours. The movements, the timing, the way the figure disappeared behind a delivery van. It was tantalizingly close, yet maddeningly out of reach. He couldn't shake the feeling that the real killer had planted Elliot as a convenient decoy, knowing how quickly the system would seize on a plausible suspect. At the trial, Elliot's defense was methodical but undermined by the weight of circumstantial evidence and a shaky eyewitness testimony from Clara, who, despite her uncertainty, was coerced by repeated questioning into identifying Elliot. The jury, swayed by confident prosecutors and the appearance of concrete proof, returned a guilty verdict. Sentenced to life in San Quentin, Elliot walked into a prison rife with hardened criminals and whispered rumors. An innocent man trapped, perhaps, or at least a man whose guilt was never truly proven. Years later, Hayward revisited the case. He wasn't the same man as he had been in the foggy early morning of that murder. Time had given him perspective and horror. New forensic techniques, once unavailable, were applied to the evidence. DNA tests, digital reconstructions, and a careful reevaluation of the crime scene. The fingerprints didn't match Elliot. The pattern of the break-in didn't match his known methods. The security footage, reanalyzed with modern software, suggested the perpetrator was someone else entirely, someone who had been there, yes, but who had carefully staged the scene to point the finger at a convenient suspect. And then came the letter, a letter that had been overlooked in the initial investigation, tucked between the pages of a book in the victim's living room. It was unsigned, cryptic, and suggested a connection to organized crime. Whoever wrote it knew the victim, knew his movements, and knew exactly how to manipulate the investigation from the shadows. Hayward stared at the letter, cold dread creeping in. He realized the full scope of what had happened. A life was locked away in San Quentin based on rushed evidence, uncertain testimony, and a system that sometimes preferred certainty to truth. The walls of the prison seemed to echo with injustice, each cell a reminder that doubt, once sown, never dies. The chapter closes with Hayward revisiting the duplex one last time. The apartment is empty now, windows boarded, lights gone, a relic of a night that changed lives. He steps into the basement, a part of the home never fully explored during the original investigation. And there, behind a hidden panel in the wall, he finds it, a small, blood-stained notebook. Every page is meticulously detailed, chronicling a murder plan, naming victims, and including instructions to stage the crime. The handwriting is neat, controlled, and familiar, but Hayward doesn't recognize it. Not yet. He leans closer, heart hammering, realizing the truth that has eluded everyone. The real killer had been there all along, closer than anyone imagined. And if Hayward thought justice had been served in San Quentin, he was wrong. The walls that held the accused were built on a lie, and the shadow of the real killer still lurked, waiting. If you think the story is intense, brace yourself for what next, because the twists are only beginning. Hit that subscribe button now, and make sure you're ready for the truth that San Quentin doesn't want you to see. Secrets beneath the fog. Before we dive deeper, hit that like button if you're ready to uncover the hidden truths no one else will tell, and make sure to subscribe, because the story you think you know is about to twist in ways you won't believe. Detective Hayward felt the chill of the basement seep into his bones as he opened the hidden panel. The small notebook inside was worse than he imagined, meticulous notes detailing not just the victim's movements, but others connected to him, friends, neighbors, co-workers, like pieces on a deadly chessboard. Each name carried a threat, a plan, a cold, calculated precision that only someone utterly remorseless could have written. Hayward's mind raced. Who could orchestrate such a crime with this level of control? And why leave a notebook behind, knowing it might be discovered years later? His instinct screamed that this wasn't just a murder, it was a message. Someone wanted to taunt the system, manipulate the investigation, and watch as an innocent man rotted behind San Quentin walls. If you're already on the edge of your seat, smash that subscribe button and comment, "Justice for Elliot," below. Let's see who else thinks the system got it all wrong. The investigation reignited. Old leads that had been cold for years were suddenly relevant again. Hayward contacted forensic specialists, revisited the crime scene, and requested interviews with anyone who had previously provided testimony. Every conversation felt like walking a tightrope. One misstep, one careless word, could let the real killer slip through the cracks again. Clara Jensen, the neighbor who had originally pointed the finger at Elliot, was first. She was hesitant, haunted by guilt for her earlier identification. I just wanted it to be over," she confessed. "I thought saying Elliot did it would end the nightmare. I never meant to ruin his life." Her voice broke, and Hayward could see the weight of her conscience. She hadn't lied, She had been coerced by fear and pressure. Her doubts now became a vital clue. Hayward next turned to digital evidence, something unavailable during the first investigation. Old surveillance footage from the duplex alleyways was enhanced using modern software. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a figure emerged, tall, deliberate in movement, hood drawn low. The figure didn't match Elliot. And then in the background, a glint of metal, a possible tool used in the crime, caught Hayward's trained eye. Every detail screamed premeditation. Pause for a second. If your mind is blown by this twist, hit the like button and share this video in the comments. Let's see how many true crime fans are following this insane case. Then came the tip that changed everything. An anonymous email arrived at the detective's desk, claiming that someone close to the victim had noticed suspicious behavior weeks before the murder. The sender hinted at bribery, threats, and connections to an underground network operating just out of reach of law enforcement. The handwriting matched none of the previous suspects. Whoever wrote this was daring someone to follow the trail, and Hayward realized it was aimed directly at him. Hayward decided to visit the victim's workplace, a quiet office in Oakland, where coworkers recalled odd phone calls and late-night deliveries. One employee mentioned seeing a stranger lurking near the building, someone who seemed to know exactly when the victim would leave. Each detail added layers to the mystery and pointed away from Elliot entirely. In the days that followed, Hayward's team discovered financial records indicating that the victim had been investigating local corruption tied to organized crime. Someone had wanted him silenced before he exposed the truth. The notebook, the staged crime scene, and the coerced testimony were all part of a chilling plan to mislead investigators. Elliot had been an unwitting pawn. If you're shocked by how deep this goes, comment "No way" below and don't forget to hit subscribe. This is the kind of story that will change the way you look at the justice system forever. Then, just as the case seemed to start aligning, Hayward got a call. One of his trusted officers, tracing a suspect from the old investigation, had disappeared. Vanished without a trace. Hayward's heart sank. This wasn't just about proving Elliot's innocence anymore. The real killer was watching, manipulating, and ready to strike again. Every move the investigators made felt anticipated, almost choreographed by a mind that was several steps ahead. Hayward returned to the duplex late one night, alone. Fog rolled in thicker than ever, wrapping the building in a ghostly shroud. The air smelled of damp wood and dust. As he descended into the basement again, flashlight in hand, a faint sound stopped him cold, a floorboard creak. Someone else was there. He froze. The notebook lay on the table, open to the last page. And there, scrawled in hurried, jagged handwriting, was a new warning. Stop digging, or the next mistake will be yours. If you're screaming at the screen right now and your heart is racing, do this. Hit like, subscribe, and comment, "Hayward, don't stop." Let's see who's ready to ride this thriller all the way to the end. Hayward's pulse quickened. Whoever had left that note was bold, cunning, and still free. The walls of San Quentin couldn't protect the innocent. The real danger lurked outside, in the shadows. Every clue uncovered led to another question. Every lead discovered seemed to circle back to someone no one suspected. Then came the breakthrough. Security footage from a convenience store several blocks away showed a figure carrying a bag matching the victim's personal items. The face wasn't clear, but the gait, the shoulder line, the way the hood dipped over the head, it matched the handwriting in the notebook. Precise, controlled, calculating. The real killer wasn't just intelligent. They were meticulous, orchestrating a crime that had gone unnoticed by authorities for years. Hayward began to piece together the timeline. Each move the suspect made was designed to create doubt, to mislead investigators, to ensure that Elliot, and only Elliot, was convicted. It was a plan built not on evidence, but on manipulation and fear. Before we continue, if you want to see how this web of deception unfolds, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and comment below what you think the killer's next move will be. The suspense is only getting started. By the end of this video, the tension had reached a fever pitch. The real killer remained in the shadows, one step ahead, taunting the investigators. Elliot remained locked behind bars, but with every new clue, the truth inched closer to light. And Hayward, standing in the foggy streets near the duplex, understood one brutal reality: uncovering the killer's identity would not just be a race against time, it would be a fight for survival. Stay tuned, because this is where every secret, every lie, and every shadow comes to light. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and comment your theories below, because you won't believe how this story ends. The truth behind the walls. Before we get into the final revelations, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and comment "Justice Now" if you're ready to uncover the chilling truth that San Quentin has tried to hide for years. You're about to witness a story that will stay with you long after it ends. Detective Marcus Hayward had never felt a case like this one. The notebook, the staged evidence, and the manipulated testimonies, it was a perfect storm of deception. But tonight, something had changed. A new tip had come in from an anonymous source claiming they had information on the real killer's location. The source didn't want fame, money, or attention, they just wanted the truth revealed. Hayward followed the lead to an abandoned warehouse near the industrial docks of Oakland. Fog clung to the shipping containers like a blanket, muffling every sound. Shadows stretched across the cracked concrete floor, and the faint drip of water echoed through the vast empty space. Every step Hayward took felt like stepping deeper into a trap. If you're gripping your seat right now, comment "I'm ready for the truth" and hit the like button, because what happens next is going to blow your mind. Inside the warehouse, crates were stacked haphazardly, and in one corner, a single chair faced a small table. On the table sat an envelope, neatly placed as though inviting Hayward to take a closer look. He opened it carefully. Inside were photographs: the victim, Elliot, and several other faces he didn't recognize. Each image was annotated, pointing out movements, schedules, and weaknesses. Whoever had created this was meticulous, planning crimes like a general planning a war. Suddenly, a sound behind him, a soft shuffle. Hayward spun, gun drawn, heart racing. A figure emerged from the shadows. Hood up, hands raised slightly, but the posture was confident, almost mocking. This was the orchestrator of the chaos, the person who had manipulated Elliot's fate from the very beginning. "You shouldn't have come here alone," the figure said, voice calm, almost conversational. "But I like that about you. Determined. Persistent." Hayward's mind raced. Every instinct screamed danger. He knew he was close to the truth, but danger lurked in every shadow. If you're feeling the tension like it's happening in real time, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment "Hayward, go." Let's see who else is on the edge with this detective. The figure stepped closer, hood falling back to reveal a face surprisingly ordinary, yet with eyes that radiated cunning. "You think Elliot did this," the killer continued, "because it's easy to believe. People want closure. They want a villain to point at. But life, real life, is messier than that." Hayward's hand didn't waver. "Why frame him?" he demanded. "Why ruin an innocent man's life?" The killer smirked. "Because power is in perception. Make them believe Elliot is guilty, and no one questions the system. No one looks deeper. And I get to watch from the shadows." Hayward's pulse pounded. Every piece of evidence, every manipulation, every coerced testimony, it all clicked. Elliot had been a pawn. And the killer? The real danger had been closer than anyone imagined. Drop a comment below if you guessed it before this reveal, smash that like button if you didn't, and make sure you're subscribed, because the final twist is coming, and it's going to shock you. A sudden movement. The killer lunged for a hidden door behind the crates. Hayward reacted instinctively, tackling the figure to the ground. They struggled, crashing into stacks of crates. The fight was brutal, desperate, a battle of strength and wits. Hayward's mind raced as he tried to subdue the criminal, but this person was trained, calculated, ready for every move. In the chaos, the killers had slipped again, revealing a second clue: tattoos on the wrist, markings that matched the handwriting in the notebook. Every symbol, every calculation, the puzzle pieces fit. Hayward realized this was no random criminal. This was someone with intimate knowledge of law enforcement, someone who could manipulate investigations from the inside. Finally, with a well-aimed maneuver, Hayward pinned the figure, handcuffs clicking shut. "It's over," he said, voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. You're going to San Quentin, like Elliot, but this time, for the crimes you actually committed. The killer laughed softly. San Quentin, it's only walls. It can't contain the truth. People will forget, but you won't. You'll remember. Hayward pulled the killer into the light. It was someone no one had suspected, a local security consultant who had access to surveillance footage, inside knowledge, and the perfect opportunity to mislead the investigation. The meticulous planning, the notebook, the staged crime, it all made sense now. If this reveal shocked you, smash that like button, comment, I didn't see that coming. And make sure you subscribe, because stories like this don't come around often. Hayward returned to Marin County the next day, bringing evidence to the DA. Elliot was exonerated, finally freed from San Quentin after years behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. The public reaction was a mix of outrage and relief, but for Hayward, the lesson was harsher. Justice is not always neat, and the real villain often hides in plain sight. But even as Elliot walked out of the prison gates, Hayward couldn't shake the final haunting thought. How many more cases had been manipulated? How many more innocent lives ruined while the real criminals watched from the shadows? San Quentin, the walls, and the system itself had become a testament to the danger of certainty without proof. Before this chapter, and this story, ends, comment below if you think the system is ready to learn from this case. Hit subscribe to follow every new twist we uncover, and smash that like button if you believe justice isn't always what it seems. Let's see who's paying attention. The city's fog rolled in again that evening, quiet and deceptive, masking the streets and alleys where the real darkness still lingered. But in the courtroom, the press, and among the people who had followed the case, a sense of closure settled. Elliot was free, the killer behind bars, and the truth finally revealed. Yet, as Hayward walked the streets of San Francisco, notebook in hand, he knew one thing: the shadows would always return. The lines between truth, doubt, and deception were thinner than anyone realized. And those who thought justice had been served, they had only glimpsed the beginning. If you stayed with this story until the end, congratulations, you've seen a tale of deception, danger, and the fine line between guilt and innocence. Hit subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts below, because the next story we uncover could be even darker, and you won't want to miss it.